I don't have any food in my teeth, do I? Hi, welcome to another Q&A for 2023's San Francisco Independent Short Film Festival. This program is the Q&A for bonding. Hey, filmmakers, thanks for joining.
Happy
And
to be
real quick, where are you calling from? Robin,
Oakland, California.
right on. Cecilia,
I'm in LA.
good to have you. Normandy,
Oakland.
Oakland, two in the house from Oakland, both from Unbroken Sky, yes. And Gabriel, where are you from?
From Vancouver, Canada.
Excellent. Let's start with you. What's your role in the film?
Uh, in Ma, well, actually, I was the writer, director, and I played the role of David, the son of Ma.
Okay, you look a little different from last time I watched the movie. How
Yeah.
long ago was that movie made?
It's been a couple of years now. It's going on a few, but yeah, I had to grow the hair a little bit. It was a bit shorter then, but I decided to grow it out. So yeah, I do look a little different. Yeah.
So what is it like being a multi-hyphenate? I mean, does it distract you from, what you need to focus on, like say acting?
You know what? This was a great experience because I actually also realized that I was, part producer as well as the editor. I wore a lot of hats, and I think it was a great experience because I was able to sort of be on different sides of the fences, really, to determine what each department needs
Hmm.
and what roles I would delegate in the future as not to take on so much. But I did enjoy the experience being in front of camera and also behind.
Do you think there's some added benefit to that, those talents that you have?
I believe so. I think being in front of the camera allowed me to learn what actors need and how I can be a better director for them. And behind the camera, even being in the edit, I was able to learn sort of adjust sort of the pacing. The rough cut was actually 20 minutes, and when you're so attached to a film, eventually the final ended up being 14 minutes. So I had to sort of really make those sacrifices and sort of step away a little bit from being attached to the film.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Normandy, what was your role on Unbroken Sky?
I I'm basically the executive producer. I optioned the rights to a series of books and spearheaded. So I wore many hats in the production realm as fundraising, producing, and yeah.
So were you the instigator, if you would? Did you initiate this whole project?
Yes.
Have you done that before? Have you been an executive producer before where you took it from the very beginnings?
Yes. Not on. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, this is my second indie project. I was EP on a feature film, indie feature. So yeah, I'm used to wearing the EP hat. And
Excellent.
but I'm very much in the trenches as well. Like in this one, because we were so, as with all indies, we were lean. I was, schlepping garbage at the end of the day and cleaning up and all of that fun stuff. That's
Yeah.
what it takes to get it done.
Yeah, welcome to indie production for sure.
Yeah,
And then, so did you recruit Robin, or were you guys already a team, or
we're a team.
so?
Yeah.
So how did this relationship start? Maybe even before Unbroken Sky, and then for Unbroken Sky. Like, did you get the rights to the book and say, call up Robin and say, you got to read this?
Robin and I met the author working on another project. The author his name is Francisco Jimenez. And so we met Francisco on a different production at the same time. And from the very beginning, I saw the film in my mind's eye. It was about 20 years ago, actually. So it just brewed there for a long time and kind of sat rather dormant. And then the everything lined up, and it was time to make this movie. I would not have done it without Robin. We've been working on many, many, many productions for years.
It'd be nice to talk about that relationship and how it benefits your creative projects. But Robin, you want to join in here on this question? Just,
Sure.
what your role was in working with Normandy?
Co-producer, primary support for Normandy, doing whatever needed to be done, including, interviewing a lot of crew, and with her building up the crew that we wanted for this project. I assisted in casting, research, development, location scouting. We spent over a year prepping this, which allowed us to shoot the whole movie in 6 days when we finally got it scheduled. So it was pretty flawless in the grand scheme of things.
Have you guys collaborated like this before on other projects?
Yeah.
So do you find that like having that rapport and kind of just understanding facilitated production?
Definitely.
Yeah. Cecilia, how about you? What was your role? Tell us about your film.
Yeah, I wrote it, I acted in it, and helped to produce as well. And I was maybe going to direct it, but then I was like, I don't feel confident wearing all these hats. So I reached out to Alejandra, who couldn't be here today. And it was really nice working with her.
I thought I recognized you too. It's just hard to on these little Zoom windows versus on the large cinematic movies to see there. But she looks familiar. You're an actor. So you also took on a couple different roles. In my opinion, I'm a filmmaker too. I think it's wise that you didn't direct and act, but maybe some people can just do that, like Gabriel here. But how was the production going for your movie? How'd it go? I mean, your performances are lovely. Your which are you the tutor? Are you the language tutor? Yeah. Okay. And the performances are wonderful. The relationship between you and the other main character, the student, if you will, was just so natural. Talk
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. She is the younger sister of a good friend of mine. And she was wonderful. And
Has she acted before? Because she was pretty natural.
yeah, she's great. She's mostly done theater. She's a poet, big like Gen Z poet in the TikTok world. That's her main thing. But yeah, she's great.
Fantastic. Yeah, nice chemistry. Did you guys have to rehearse a lot, or because you're, friends, your sister's friends, that it just was hanging out again on set?
We rehearsed quite a bit, but I think because everyone felt really comfortable, it was pretty easy to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then what about for the other films too? All great performances everywhere here. A little bit more serious material in Unbroken Sky, spanning multiple locations, time period, if you will. Kind of serious stuff too. Gut wrenching at times, maybe. How was it on set getting those performances? How were the actors?
They were great. We cast all throughout California in about 6 or 7 locations, as far south as San Diego, and up here in San Francisco and Oakland, Salinas, Santa Maria. We had a hard time finding our main character, the principal. Our director, who can't be here today, is really very much into authentic performance. And because we were so tight on time, we were tightly rehearsed, and I think he, in our post-mortem, would have hoped for a little more improv, and not sticking so tight to the dialogue as written, but we just didn't have time for that.
Right.
We had minors and we had a studio teacher, we had a 4-year-old, so you do
Right.
you do what you can.
Yeah, you had multiple ages, generations, all in the same shot at the same time. You even had lots of great background extras too, if I remember, like field workers, immigrants, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
kind of a large cast.
Yeah.
About, I think, 28 people.
Yeah,
Wow.
some of the bigger scenes, yeah.
And wonderful recreation. I mean, it felt like you were there, in those spaces too. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Any challenges with that, with larger sets and multiple roles in the frame?
I think we were blessed. We
Yeah.
had the support of the Santa Maria community. Our author, Francisco Jimenez, worked in these fields as a child, and we shot in the very fields that he picked strawberries. which are now owned by a former bracero, who bought the land and has now amassed an empire of 1,000 acres. They're a great family. They take really good care of all the people that work in agriculture. So we were not charged, which was a big thing in a low budget movie. We were gifted these locations, including a 100-year-old barn that we constructed our sets in authentically, so that the Jimenez family, when they visited the set, felt they were home. But we just had a huge community support, from cars.
That's great.
Locations, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's maybe not as easier nowadays in San Francisco to get community support being a bigger city. But anyways, I digress. Gabriel, great natural relationship on screen between son and mom, even if it is contentious and bickering. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit autobiographical, but yeah, so it was pretty easy to write. It just kind of started going with the flow.
Wait, so you moved back in with your mom?
At that time, yeah, it was kind of back and forth, right? And so I just let it flow in terms of the writing, just because I was stuck I'd written a couple of short scripts and they just weren't hitting the mark, or the budgets were too big. And so I decided, let's just keep it simple, location, character based. But I resonated with the other films because my mother's actually Hispanic. She's actually from Mexico. And up here, casting, I ideally wanted to have a Latino mom, but I couldn't find. And then I ended up casting Ethel, who's Scottish. But essentially, when the audition happened, she was just a natural, like just kind of had that Scottish humor. Just one take wonder, really. As soon as she sat down, I was like, yep, it works. So my brain had to switch a little bit because I had one idea in my head from the way I grew up, sort of being born in Canada, but having that sort of Latin identity a little bit. And it worked quite well. And I think I wanted to write a universal story that people could relate to, with the challenging dynamics with family, especially with a mother and a son.
Do you think it became more universal or improved because of the adjustments and flexibility you had to allow? Like, as opposed to getting to your original vision where,
Yeah, I think so. I think it just surprised me in a way that sometimes when you have a certain idea and you can't get what you want, perhaps there's something else sort of, waiting that you haven't even thought of. And as well as the different cast, because there was a scene there where there's different mothers and sons from different backgrounds, and all of them were actually mothers and sons, and the mothers didn't have any backgrounds. I said, hey, can you just bring your mom? And they were just a natural. They weren't even scripted. I just let them run with it, and it was just the improv, as you were saying, that you were hoping for. So it just worked wonderfully for me. So I think a lot of things that, even though I had prepared in the script, came just naturally on set.
Yeah, as a filmmaker myself, a lot of times when you go with the flow or you make those adjustments and let the movie gods and goddesses do their thing, it makes it better, right? At times, as opposed to trying to force it.
Yeah.
Any magical moments happen for Unbroken Sky, with all the challenges you had with either actor chemistry or luck at the location, or, I don't know.
Yeah, there were lots of magical moments. We feel really, because one of our main scenes takes place in a strawberry field. And so we're always like, is it going to rain? Is the sun going to be right? Can we sell this as a 1957? Like, you have to study, like, what did that look like in 1957? What did the rows look like? What kind of irrigation did they use? So we were very true to that. We really, really did our homework and really prepared for all the inevitable. If it rained, if it didn't. We lost one of our 4-year-old actors like the day before we were supposed to shoot, and we ended up, kind of to your point, we ended up casting a family member. Actually, the author's actual great grandnephew played him when he was 4 years old. So it was the story within
Yeah.
the story, so to speak. So that was
Yeah, you just inspired me to lead to this question. I remember a visual texture difference between present and, or 10 years difference, especially being the older portion of the film, 50s, the late 50s or whatever.
yeah,
How-
57.
did you shoot that differently? Like, did you use a different medium or like different lighting, or is just purely the DP
You know, the
coming up with
film, I'm not the DP. Ingrid Sanchez is, and she's a phenomenal talent, a young, very young artist, but you will hear about her. We discussed many ways ago about this. I'm also a DP, but I didn't want to shoot this movie because I felt it should be shot by somebody, with family ties in this area. But we discussed it. We shot everything with an Alexa, with Cooke anamorphic lenses. We intentionally rated. I don't know if this is going to get too technical, so cut me off if necessary.
I like it, but I will. Don't worry.
We intentionally forced the sensitivity of the camera to 1600 ISO and shot everything at a 2.8 with a lot of dark glass.
So you were just manipulating in camera and with the lighting you had. You didn't do like I don't know, completely different.
It was very minimally lit, intentionally, because we didn't want it to look artificial,
Right.
or like a John Wayne movie.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I remember it being stunning. Cecilia, too, you really create a sense of space with New York, Brooklyn, New York City, right? I mean, I've been to New York a lot. I felt like I was there, both with framing choices and with just the set direction, if you had any, or did you just get lucky with the location that was already set the way you wanted?
Well, we wanted a mansion. Unfortunately, that's expensive. So it was a family, friends place for the exterior, and then a very like dingy apartment in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, for the interior that we really tried to dress up. But yeah, we in an ideal world with endless money, it would have been like grand.
You didn't have millions of dollars for this?
No, we did, and that's what we came up with. No, yeah, yeah.
So why did you want to make this film, Cecilia?
I was living in New York at the time, and I had so many friends who were aspiring artists in some way and tutoring, and felt so cynical about their tutoring jobs. So I liked the idea of taking something cringy and lame and shallow seeming, and being able to get some sort of inspiration from that, even if, especially right now when so many narratives are about like rich being bad, and just some sort of inspiration that you take from those moments.
Yeah. You captured a nice slice of life of that kind of world of the tutor and the student in a New York homestead. It's really tight. It's really good. And then what about Robin and Normandy? I can kind of guess, but why do you want to make this film besides it just being a wonderful story? Why'd you put your time and effort into it? Why'd you make it?
It was a calling that I could not refuse.
Why is that?
I fell in love with the story. I think it's an immigrant tale. The other filmmakers haven't. It's an immigrant tale. In short, one we've all seen before. It's a story of a family that crosses the border in 1947 in search of a better life. And it follows a 14-year-old in his life here in America, and it's in some regard a homage to all immigrants everywhere, all over the world, seeking a better life, whether you're crossing a border or on a boat. And I feel that's a universal story that's been told 1,000 times and will continue to be told. It's humanitarian. And the point of it for me was that I feel we should all feel proud of where we come from, and whether that's wherever in the world. And I think it's also important to ask ourselves how we got here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generations
So
back. So
that's the roots of our country. It's a biographical film too, right? I mean, in a way, it's a specific family. And forgive me for simple questions, but audience might want to know.
Yeah.
Whose story is it?
It's the story of Francisco. It's a life. It's based on his memoir.
Wow.
So it's a true story, and his books have been they're published in several languages, and they're distributed all over the world. They're used as text in the education arena. And the big payoff is getting responses on our social media channels like, oh yeah, my mother was a field worker. She worked in the fields, and now I'm proud. So instilling pride in our roots is important. That's the biggest payoff ever, to get those stories and to have people open up in that way. That's my story too, they would say. So
right. Agreed. And Gabriel, same kind of question. Why this story? This one was the one you could just get to the end. You said you were having kind of roadblocks with writing other short projects or other projects, and this one just surfaced to the top.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of elements that I was taking from past experiences, albeit I haven't been dumped by a text, but there were, I think there was also, I wanted to show issues within, things that were happening just in our society. So there was a lot of social media challenges that we've faced. And also, we see our character David that's sort of, saying that he's looking for a job and needs to work, but at the same time he's, busy, creeping. And I wanted to show some of those issues as well. So I was just kind of putting things together, and it kind of started to flow, and I just went with it. I think it's important to tell those stories. So that, again, people can relate. Maybe somebody's going through those type of challenges. For me, I think it's also important to try to put in humor. Sometimes even in difficult times or situations, you can try to push a little bit of humor in there, and I think that can kind of make for a feel-good story. Where sometimes people can kind of relate and kind of laugh, maybe thinking of sort of past experiences, and kind of look back and going, it's kind of funny that the way my parent acted or a family member acted, but, because at the end of the day, there's, regardless of a strained relationship, there's always that underlying of sort of love, right? And it's really a relationship between mother and son.
Yeah, the bond of love. I love the ending. I can't remember exactly, but I love the feeling that they were back together and what you just described, all these films have universal themes or topics, and are very relevant, about people bonding, connecting, coming together. You guys have captured that. What were the at the end of the movie to say? What did you want people to feel? Do you want people walking away feeling a certain thing, or just to be entertained? Which is worthy. It's worth it. Yeah, that's good enough.
Yeah, I wanted people to walk away feeling like they could find some sort of inspiration in the mundane in their lives, or in their chores, or in, the everyday moments that we don't usually find inspiring.
Yeah. Well, I think nowadays with technology and social media, the phone, the little devices, that distracts us from being in the moment and being content with the mundane. Life is pretty amazing, right? But we aren't paying attention. How about Robin? Speak a little bit. After watching your movie, how do you want people to feel?
I want them to feel proud. I want everyone to feel proud of who they are and, where they've come from. And our hope was to foster community, to just, to not be shy about, reaching out to, people that might be other than yourself. But just, we all have so much to offer each other. And we feel if you can tell your story, you can make connections, and the connections help us, understand and appreciate, and hopefully get along better so that we're less likely,
Right.
to harm each other.
Do you think? I mean, I can't really answer this, but do you think films can do that? Do you think short films have a benefit?
Very definitely, short films especially, because they're built usually around one core idea. And if that idea is articulated beautifully, it can be very effective and very strong, and absolutely do that.
How about the other filmmakers here? The importance of short films, or are short films effective in communicating messages you want to get across? Gabriel, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely there's definitely a place for them. They're important. It allows the artist to hone their skills. Also, I think it's a place to tell those stories that have that have social issues. There's for social impact, awareness. We have the technology has changed that now we can see more from different parts of the world. We can be exposed to different cultures, and I think they're really important. And I'm glad to see that we're able to access them, because before I'd go to a film festival, I loved a short film, and then I wanted to tell my friends about it, and it was hard to access. And I think we're getting there to be able to have access to those films.
Yeah, one of the benefits of the pandemic, I believe, is that we can now go virtual festivals too. So you get that benefit that you're talking about. Cecilia, how about you? Benefits of films?
Yeah,
Short
I
films?
think it can be difficult in shorts to really care about a dramatic story, but that's what I love so much about The Unbroken Sky, where clearly it's such a heavy dramatic story, but there are these moments of levity, especially at the beginning, that really pull us in. So I think in shorts, it's especially important to have these moments of levity to make us care.
Yeah, agree. Normandy, you want to add to this, or?
I think short films are really, really hard to make. I
Do you
really,
think they're like harder than features, or just harder in a different way?
I think they're harder than features because of the time limit you have in some. So I really have a lot of admiration for filmmakers who make shorts, like a lot,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's also precious, right? You have so much time, so much screen time, so much. You really have to get bang for the buck, so to speak, and be succinct in the storytelling. Everything really counts. You don't have any. There isn't any room for anything but, it's a trip. I found it hard, a little challenging in that regard, and as a result,
Yeah, and
we
as an
found
executive
this.
producer, you could also know, like, the payoff, if you will, of a short. Well, there really isn't a financial reward or a payoff or some sort of reward that, not that you do it for that reason, that a feature film might provide. So it's a labor of love, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Or just want to get in front of audiences to enjoy it or get a message out or a topic out, but it's not because you're like, I'm gonna go and, launch a filmmaking career with this short film, although that has happened.
Yeah.
Do you guys have an anecdote or a favorite moment, favorite scene from your movie that stands out? What's your favorite scene in the whole movie, Cecilia? Is there one that stands above others, or that you hope audiences like, oh man, I hope they get this tricky shot or this beautiful chemistry between the actors?
What sticks out to me actually is the final scene. I love when she me folds up the paper into a frog and puts it on the plan. And yeah, it's just supposed to be like her taking her failure and trying to do something creative with it. And
Right.
I really love that scene and how it
Right.
captures that feeling.
Yes. Normandy, you have a favorite thing you accomplished in your movie? An indelible image?
Robin, why don't you take that one?
I I was hoping you would.
Well, you guys can brew about it, and I'll go to Gabriel and stall
Go
for
to
you.
Gabriel, sure.
Yeah, Gabriel.
Yeah, I think I mean every scene has its sort of I think dynamics and sort of which was my favorite scene. I think there was a moment of where sort of David goes to check in on his mom, and there's sort of that real sort of situation where he kind of feels that little bit of guilt, but he doesn't go talk to her to see if she's okay. But there's sort of you see those feelings. But I think again, going back to that scene where you show the different mothers and sons, I think that was just a whole an experience on its own in production. And we only had the actual store for about an hour, so we just laid all the different actors in the different corners of the furniture store, just put the camera on a tripod, just said go. They were done, moved to the next, go, and then move to the next, go. And then in the edit there were so many different takes that I thought were funny, so I had to choose which would work, and there was no cuts. It's just let it go, let it run, and you may not even understand the language, but you get the idea of the argument that's relatable to what's happening to David and his mother.
Wonderful. All right, Robin. Over to you.
Okay, I've stalled long enough, right?
Well, I mean, like like I
it's-
said before we started this, I've watched so many films I can't remember all the details. I wish I could, but like
Yeah.
all the things that just pop up that are resonated, they're burned in my brain from all your movies. Like when your family is migrating or walking together. I mean, I just
Yeah.
remember it's burned in my brain. It's a beautiful image. It's a strong image, right, of them.
Yeah. Well, the favorite, I think, now that I
Was that
thought,
at the end? Forgive me for interrupting. Was that at the end or somewhere in the middle where they're?
that's at the very end where the family is walking. They're walking to be deported.
Yes.
But the scene before that in the Border Patrol office with the mother appealing to the border officer's humanity and begging him, even though her husband doesn't speak English, he's trying to figure out what's going on. Her English is not so good, but her sons, because they've been in the schools, are able to help her. But she buys time so they can go and pack their personal belongings. And, it's really the resilience of the human spirit, because they're not beat. They're just, just disrupted for a time.
Overcoming challenges, and it's just I remember that scene too, where it's like I just can't understand why the officer, the immigrant officer, just doesn't grant them access. It's like why can't he break that rule? It was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, last question here. We're out of time. Anything you want to add that I didn't ask you about your films, or something you want to share with your audiences about it? Now's your chance. Otherwise, we're very happy that you made your films and congratulate you on making your films. Where can we catch more of your work, everybody? Where can we find out more information about you guys if someone wanted to research you besides like IMDb? Robin, how about you?
I think just our website for this project, because that would lead you to many other things
And that's
about the entire team.
yeah. Go ahead and plug it. TheUnbrokensky.com. Does that sound right?
TheUnbrokenSky.com.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Nori, you too. Any last words?
Enjoy the film. I hope it makes enjoy. That's all I can say. And power to all the filmmakers out there telling their story.
Right on. And Gabriel, how about you? Any last words? Any plug?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of other work, I mean, people can always follow me or sort of I have a website, gabrielcolomed.com, also the film company, which is cineastafilms.com. So I'm always working on different projects, always have different irons in the fire. I guess when it comes to my films, like all films, is I hope people can take away something from it for themselves, and hopefully it may not be life-changing, but I hope I think one of the things is I always like to entertain people, but I hope it also makes them think.
It made me think of my mom. I think I called her right after watching your movie. No joke. I definitely appreciated her more. Cecilia, last but not least, any parting words? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Messi, like the soccer player, Sassy CECI. And right now I'm a second year screenwriting fellow at AFI, and I am focusing on writing.
Right on. Congratulations.
No
Well, it's a
problem.
pleasure meeting you guys. When you come to San Francisco, if you come to San Francisco, look me up, tap me on the shoulder. Let's stay connected. In the meantime, congratulations for making your movies. Keep on making movies, and we appreciate all that you do, all your creative endeavors.
You as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.